Madam Chair and members, Seth Bramble on behalf of the California Teachers Association. Respectfully, CTA opposes this bill, and in essence, we believe that public schools should be financed through public funding, which at the moment is, I just want to say it bluntly, our public schools right now are in crisis. We've had 19,000 teachers laid off. We're closing entire art programs, music programs. Schools and libraries are closing based on funding. This concept to take funding from public schools, taxpayer money, and use it to and give it to private schools could not come at a worse time. CTA believes, in essence, that using public funds for private schools compromises free, equitable, universal, and quality public education for every student, and for those reasons, we oppose this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Dennis Myers with the California Association of School Business Officials, also an opposed. This is a voucher bill. There isn't enough money in the system right now to fund 2 school systems, so we would ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, Mr. Norby?
Since new kids in school are disproportionately bullied, if you called it the Anti-Bullying Bill, School Act, or something, Mr. Knight, you might get some support, more support than it's going to probably get as it is. But I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Is that an amendment?
It's a soft bulk as you're going to get. But definitely this would reduce bullying in schools, and I think those that are opposed to bullying should consider that.
Any other comments? The bill has been moved by Dr. Haldeman.
I have a
seconded
comment
by Mr. Wagner. And Mr. Amiano.
Well, I think my take on bullying is a little more serious than the comment, pardon me, but I felt that trivialized the issue. And sometimes I'm guilty of that too. So I'm just curious, it says here that you exclude military families that are undocumented. Is that the case?
We have discussed this issue several times. We are looking into this. If we move the bill forward, we're talking about this issue.
Yes, they're serving as well.
They are serving. That's correct.
Any other comments? Mr. Knight, I'm not going to be able to support your bill. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Wagner.
You might.
Maybe I will be compelled.
Probably not, but we'll give it a shot. The grant is $5,000 in your bill?
Correct.
Do you know what the average cost to educate a student in a public school is today?
Well, right now we do about $10,600 with state, local, and federal funds.
Okay. So if we are taking the entire student out of the public school and not spending the $10,000 and some dollars and only given a $5,000 grant, aren't we actually to the good?
Well, and I'll respond to that. Yes, there's been several studies, and there are voucher programs in the country that have had several studies on the savings of the voucher. The real issue on the money is that some of these kids that are in these bases, they don't have any other options. They are 30 to 50 miles in some cases away from another school. So the parents either send them to that school on base, or they have to drive 50 miles 4 times a day. Now, that is where the voucher idea came up. That is where these military families brought this up, because they are a specific type of kid. They are put into these situations that no other kid is.
Ms. Carter, and then Ms. Buchanan.
So are you saying the students can't go to the schools on the base?
They can. But if you are only allowed to go to that one school, and that is the one school within 50 miles, if that school is terrible, that is your choice. That is your only choice. If that school is great, then great. And some of these schools do outperform their schools that are within this time or this range. But if they don't, then those military families are stuck, possibly driving up to 1,000 miles a week to get another choice in school.
Well, one of the things that I found, my daughter and son-in-law both are in the military, and their children have been transferred to at least, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the fifth one twice. And I would wager to say that the military schools are on par or better than regular schools in the community, and they have not had any problems. As a matter of fact, they're excelling at the military schools that they go to. So I just don't know why someone would want to take them away from the neighborhood school and take them 50 miles away.
And I don't know that I'm arguing that point. I myself went to 2 of these schools that are in this, in my presentation. But some kids do come from other places that their schools that they went to might be at a much higher level than this school on the base. And some of these people that have come to Edwards, some other places that are a long way away from another choice in schools, then they're stuck with that school. So if they are behind because they've had to go to a school that they've already learned that in the past year, then that's what they're stuck with.
Ms. Buchanan.
I just don't want to leave people with the belief, I know most people in the audience here are very knowledgeable, that we're funding our students at $10,600 because the base revenue limit is it's probably lower than $5,000 now for most schools, and that's what we're funding schools at for the normal education. I don't, if the fact that there might be bond funds or local parcel taxes or whatever that go into schools, that you're paying that money to fix the schools, whether you have one more student or one less student. So if you're going to do an apples to apples, it's probably pretty close to where we are. If we have to make deeper budget cuts June 15th, we could be well under the $5,000. The issue for me, however, and I actually happened to chair the No on Voucher campaign in Contra Costa County a number of years ago, is whether or not we're going to use public dollars for private schools. And I think public dollars, especially at a time when schools have been cut over 20% and are looking at making even more devastating cuts, I think public funds should stay with public schools.
Thank you for making that point. I think it's an important one. And unless there are any other comments, Dr. Halderman?
Thank you. I'm a proponent of parental choice regardless of family situation. There was recently a landmark decision made by the federal government which repealed the don't ask, don't tell restriction on service in our military. Would your proposal of vouchers for children in such families also apply to these servicemen and women?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think what I was beginning to say, and before others had comments, and I welcome those, is that I can't support your bill today. I think this committee has heard several bills to support military families, and understandably, they are under a different set of circumstances that sometimes can be very challenging, and want to really recognize that. But this bill is not. This bill is not the bill that I'm going to support because it is a bill that virtually provides money to go to private schools and create a voucher system. And I have spent my whole career fighting vouchers, and this is certainly not the time nor the place to recognize it in any way, shape, or form. And so I will not be able to support your bill today. With that, there has been a motion by Dr. Halderman and seconded by Mr. Wagner. And do you have a closing comment?
I do. When we wrote this bill and when this idea came forward, we thought about all the arguments on vouchers, pro and con, and we looked at that. We've read several of the studies that have come out of Milwaukee and Washington, D.C. and Cleveland, and we really didn't want the discussion to go down the voucher road. We understand that it has to, just by the nature of the bill, but just the understanding that these kids are different and that there is a different expectation when you get onto a base that could be 30 or 40 miles away from another choice. So that was the kind of the idea of this bill. It wasn't to come in here and make something that was going to make the Education Committee upset or anything of that nature. But this is a little different than just your traditional voucher. And with that, I ask you to reconsider and support my bill.
Thank you. Will the Secretary call the roll?
Brownlee?
No.
Brownlee, no. Norby? Aye. Norby, aye. Amiano? No. Amiano, no. Buchanan? Buchanan, no. Butler? Butler, no. Carter? Carter, no. Ing? Ing not voting. Gorell, Halderman? Aye. Halderman, aye. Wagner? Wagner, aye. Williams? No. Williams, no. Only 3 aye votes.
There are only 3 votes. Are there absent members to hold the roll open? There were 6 no votes. 6 no votes. That means your bill failed.
And we'd ask for reconsideration.
Do you really think there's going to be a different outcome?
Wow. Well, then, no.
I think that's best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we now have committee member bills. We have 7 of them, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them. 6 of them. We will go in file order, so we will begin with Mr. Ing, AB 189, item 7. Mr. Ing, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. First of all, I want to thank the committee chair and the staff for all your hard work on this bill. I will be accepting the committee amendments, which removes the requirement for a minimum level of funding in lieu of a public hearing process by the governing body of a school district on its plan to reduce or eliminate a program, a tracking system developed by the CDE on how money under flexibility is being kept. Finally, this bill will offer districts the opportunity to assess a modest fee for ESL and citizenship classes to ensure that these services are kept alive during flexibility. Members, this bill is first and foremost is about transparency. It's about preparing the workforce for California's economy, which is why it's supported by such groups as the State Building Instruction Trade of California, California Federation of Teachers, California Correctional Peace Officers Association, and a number of other organizations in the Get Real Coalition. Now, as we know, in these difficult times, the legislature granted categorical flexibility to allow school districts to remain fiscally solvent. But often, as we have heard, it has resulted in the closure and the elimination of categorical programs and the dramatic curtailment of services to those that are most needy, those that I have been elected to represent, the immigrant, the mother that comes home at 10 o'clock at night and tries to help her child with homework, the individual that wants to learn how to become a citizen in order to enter the workforce and get a better job. And often these flexibility categories are eliminated without adequate or very much public input. This bill is intended to empower parents and community members at the local level by providing the tools necessary to advocate for protecting educational programs and at the same time reserving the flexibility that local school districts have indicated that they need. Categorical programs such as adult education and regional occupational centers and programs provide valuable educational and post-educational services to a broad range of California's families and prepares these individuals for the workforce. There are 5.3 million Californian adults without high school diplomas, 3 million English language learners who need access to adult education resources in order to work in our economy. 1 in 5 Californians do not have a high school diploma or GED, and 50% of these have less than a high school education. It's critical that in the long run we have a healthy debate about the change to the funding in these programs. For many of the communities, these programs fulfill the dreams of providing a better job, buying a home, starting their business. As categorical flexibility cuts deeper, especially into adult education, these opportunities will be lost. I have here with me witnesses in support, Mr. Craig Brown and Mr. Mike Water, representing the sponsor and additional. Thank you.
Welcome.
Craig Brown for the California Council for Adult Education. This bill doesn't really restrict anything. It does give people who believe in these programs a fair shot at making their case at the school board why these programs should be continued. These programs are important to people who are concerned about employment in this state. We need to prepare the workforce. That's why you see so many people from the Get Real Coalition support. My other client, the California Correctional Peace Officers Association, is part of that coalition and strongly supports this bill.
Thank you. Next witness.
Mike Wada, State President for the California Council for Adult Education. School districts face very tough decisions with limited and finite resources. We believe that with the amendments suggested by committee, that a framework can be established where stakeholders and school board members can have collaborative discussions regarding how to utilize those resources. We would urge a yes vote.
Thank you.
Terry Burns on behalf of the California Adult Education Administrators Association. I think it's important to be aware that the LAO study on the impacts of categorical flexibility on programs underestimates what's happened to adult ed programs. It reflects only those programs that have been completely closed. A program that has downsized by 90 or more % is essentially closed for all intents and purposes. You will see a lot more of those programs closing in this year's budget, and depending what happens with the future budget, you'll see even further. If you want to keep those some semblance of a program, you need to make sure you're doing something, because you're still going to have these folks who didn't pass high school for whatever reason, these folks who are immigrants, these folks who are transitioning jobs. They're still going to be there. You need to have a program to deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff Freitas with the California Federation of Teachers. And we support this bill, and we just want to point out this is a completely different population than the normal K-12 population where the other flexibility was, and it does have a direct influence and impact on those by educating many of them, their parents, and allowing them to have a better education themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Garcia, Montebello Unified, in support of the bill.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Kathy Brenzel, Montebello, representing Montebello Unified School District. My district is in strong support of the bill.
Thank you.
Hi, Sue Gilmore, Director of Special Ed, Adult Ed for Sacramento City Unified School District, and in support of the bill.
Thank you.
I'm Christian Nelson, President-elect of the California Council for Adult Education, and I'm in support of this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Joanne Durkee. I've been a 30-year adult educator from Contra Costa County, a member of the California Council for Adult Education and California Association of Adult Education Administrators, and very much support this bill.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Margaret Scott from Mount Diablo Adult Education. I support this bill.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Steve Henderson, representing the California School Employees Association. I'd like to echo the comments of Ms. Burns. It's not clear whether or not the legislature expected that programs would be eliminated when they instituted flexibility as part of the budget agreement. However, Ms. Burns was absolutely correct. If the programs get eliminated, you still have these adult education students that you have to provide for, that you should have a program for. Flexibility is going to expire in 2015, or at least that's what it's scheduled to do, expire in 2015. These students are still going to be there. There's still going to be a program. there's still going to be a need to be a program to support these students. So the California School Employees Association supports this bill.
Thank you very much. Other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Kind of there.
We've had a lot of in-betweens today.
Well, and this is actually a very long, convoluted. Erica Hoffman, I'm actually here representing Terry Anderson, and on behalf of her clients, Torrance and Poway Unified School Districts, to remove their opposition to the measure with the amendments that were taken in committee today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Dennis Myers with the California Association of School Business Officials. Originally in opposition, we'll just want to wait and see how the language is written, and to ensure that this isn't a new hearing process that's on top of the one that's already in the flexibility law. So just to make sure that it's written where it's clear, it's not duplicative. We're for public processes and making it all as clear as possible how that money is being used, and as long as it doesn't hamper how flexibility is used, we're probably going to come off the bill, but we'll reserve that for the next hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Hulsizer, here on behalf of the Kern County Superintendent of Schools Office. First of all, we want to acknowledge what the last two speakers said. We really appreciate the movement that's occurred here on this bill, but we do have a couple of comments. First of all, we want to acknowledge and express our appreciation to all of the people who were sponsors and supportive of this bill on behalf of the programs that are identified. We know they're important programs. What we want to make clear that you understand is that our clients value these programs as well. And I have to take exception to a comment that was made that the decisions that have made my school districts to reduce these programs, or in some cases eliminate some of these programs, have been made without proper deliberation or reflection. The school boards in this state, you all have them in your district, are dealing with very, very difficult decisions. We've had $5 billion of cuts that we've had to take in the last 3 years. And we could easily talk about many of the other programs that aren't on the list, that aren't identified in this bill, that in many school districts, they're just as important to students. And they're just as important to other aspects of what we do. And we just don't want to lose sight of the fact that what's driving this is about $900 a student in cuts, and they're not going away. You're broke and we're broke. And you have tough decisions to make, and our school districts have had tough decisions to make. And I think the amendments that were taken today are a reflection of that. We have no problem with real clear deliberation about what these programs mean. That's not a problem. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other witnesses in opposition? Ms. Buchanan.
I just have one quick question, because I think your solution of allowing people to at least pay for classes and get the services is it'd be nice if we didn't have to charge, but at least it still provides them with it. I just want to have one clarification in terms of the Section 1 here on your changes. And I'm assuming that if a district lists these programs as a separate agenda item on the budget, that will, on the meeting where they're discussing the budget, that will fulfill this requirement, that they're not expected to have a completely separate meeting just on these items.
Separate agenda item if they're cutting, but not eliminating.
You just want it, you don't want them hidden, but it can be a separate agenda item, so the district's not going to have an extra budget meeting. Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Amiano.
Might do that in a committee, but yeah.
Mr. Norby.
To the last public speaker, I would agree completely, and far be it for us here to judge other legislative bodies as making law or cutting programs without proper deliberation. We're here almost at 6 o'clock. Hey, school boards, city councils, most of us have been on them. We're talking midnight, 2 in the morning on a lot of these unpopular things, and that's after a full workday. I'm inclined to support the bill. I hope I understand it properly. Originally, when I looked at it, it looked like it was tying the hands of local school boards in terms of program flexibility. I don't think it does that too much, and by adding more flexibility on charging the fees, it gives the school boards the option of keeping these programs and letting people get what they pay for. I've been involved in adult ed. I've taught adults ESL for the Fullerton Union High School District. I know the programs are important. If anything, though, the fees will show how important they really are to the public, and perhaps make the students a little bit more discriminating as well, which could be a good thing in terms of demanding more for what they're getting. I don't know what the fees are going to be. I presume they will cover costs, correct?
It's left up to the discretion of each school district.
Right, which is where it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norby. Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. I still think that this ties the hands of locals a little bit, and I don't intend to support it at this point. I think I'll probably just wait and lay off, because I think the amendments probably help. But I guess I was struck by something Mr. Brown said, and I want to follow up with you. You said that this bill gives a fair shot, was your phrase, at your clients making their case before the school boards. And I suppose my question is, without this bill, why don't they still have that same fair shot to come and try to convince their locals of the value of their programs?
I think if in fact it's submerged into a big budget decision, there's no specific focus on this. The concerned community may not even know it's on the agenda. It may be a hearing to adopt the budget in one big motion. So this is really just to ensure there's adequate notice and a chance to debate the issue.
Okay, and that's what seems to me to maybe getting in the way of the locals, perhaps more so than some of my colleagues here see. But okay, thank you for that.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion on the bill? Moved by Ms. Carter, seconded by Mr. Amiano. And Mr. Ng, I know you've been very passionate about this issue, and really appreciate your hard work and advocacy, and really appreciate you and all of your other supporters of the bill to work with us so that we could kind of figure out the right way to approach this. And I think it's fair for all of us to say, if these were better times, we want to be, all of these programs have great value and great merit, and we wish that we were funding them all fully. It's just we're in very difficult times, but hopefully this bill will ensure that there is a healthy debate in every community across California with regards to these particular items that are in flex. So with that, I'd ask you to...
I want to just thank you, Madam Chair, for your incredible leadership, not on just this bill, but many of the other bills that have been come before. Respectfully request and I vote.
Thank you. And the bill's been moved by Ms. Carter and seconded by Mr. Amiano. It's due pass as amended to the appropriations. Would Secretary call the roll?
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby?
Aye.
Norby, aye. Amiano? Aye. Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Buchanan, aye. Butler? Carter? Carter, aye. Ng?
Aye.
Ng, aye. Gorel? Halderman? Halderman not voting. Wagner? Wagner abstain. Williams? Williams, aye. 7.
7 votes. Your bill is out. Yippee! Now move to Mr. Amiano. You are next. Mr. Amiano, AB 207, item 9.
Thank you very much, and I hope to be brief, and after this, drinks on the house. Thank you for the opportunity to present AB 207. For many of you, this bill may sound familiar. It is identical to AB 1854, which I authored last year and was vetoed by our former governor. AB 207 seeks to improve access to education by clarifying the specific documents constituted as evidence of residency for students in school districts. Existing law only specifies a range of documents that can be used to meet residency requirements for school attendance without a school district adjacent to the international border or within. Therefore, all school districts are not provided with a definition of school district residency or specific guidelines on how to verify residency. As a result, some school districts are imposing overly burdensome requirements on parents to establish residency in their district. Families that may experience difficulty in providing documents to establish residency within a school district can include victims of domestic violence, immigrant and low-wage workers, and the homeless. AB 1854 seeks to eliminate discriminatory barriers that may prevent students from having equal access to education. This bill provides clear guidelines to all school districts by identifying specific documents which include, but is not limited to, property tax payment receipts, rent contracts, or payment receipts, utility service contracts, statements or payment receipts, pay stubs, voter registration correspondence from a governmental agency, and declaration of residency executed by the parent or guardian in the context of homelessness as defined in the McKinley-Vento Act as proof of residency for school attendance. This bill is supported by the ACLU, AFSCME, California Association for Bilingual Education, California Federation of Teachers, California Immigrant Policy Center, Californians Together, Evergreen School District, MALDEF, and Public Advocates. Here with me today to testify on the bill is Martha Zaragoza Diaz with Californians Together and Liz Guillon with Public Advocates. Thank you for your consideration.
I'm going to give my time to Jeanette with MALDEF, since they were the ones that originally did the first bill, I think, the first issue on this.
Good evening, distinguished chair and members of the committee. My name is Jeanette Sanipatin. I'm the legislative staff attorney with the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. I'm here in strong support of this bill. One of the programs that MALDEF runs is a parent-school partnership program where we train parents how to be advocates for their kids in school, and this is an issue that we see on a day-to-day basis, that parents have difficulty with the most basic duty as a parent, which is to register your child in school. And so what is great about this bill is that it provides for some statewide consistency, as well as provides some flexibility within what type of documents are required to establish residency. We think it's critical for our parents to be able to register their kids in school, and as a result are very thankful that Assemblymember Amiano has reintroduced this bill, because we think it's an important piece in order for our parents to continue to be advocates on the ground for their children's education, but also to make registering their child a lot more easier. And we think that having some statewide consistency is critical, and we are also supportive of the fact that the requirements in this bill are not unduly burdensome as some of the ones that we have seen in some of these rogue school districts. So we ask for your support today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other witnesses and support.
Good afternoon. Liz Guillen with Public Advocates. We think AB 207 is a simple and straightforward approach. Some of the burdensome documentation requirements that we have seen are a violation of immigrant students' rights under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. It's also in conflict with our state policy of having all students in school, as well as the guidance by the Department of Education on the types of documentation that should be accepted. For these reasons, we think this is a very reasonable bill and urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz, representing Californians Together and California Association for Bilingual Education. We think that this bill is a very straightforward bill with regards to residency requirement. And when we talk about residency requirement, we're talking about documentation that shows that the parents and the child lives within the area of the district. And so we believe that this bill will clearly provide guidelines to the schools with regards to the documentation that they must accept from parents in order to determine whether that child does indeed live in the area of the school that he or she wants to attend. And so we ask for support on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff Freitas with California Federation of Teachers, and we support this bill for all the previous comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Seth Bramble on behalf of the California Teachers Association. For the reasons previously stated, we're processing a support position on this bill.
Thank you. Next witness.
Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the California Immigrant Policy Center in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Andrew Keller on behalf of San Francisco Unified School District. Our board has adopted a supportive amended position on the bill. That said, we are looking forward to see the bill move forward. We are in contact with the author's office to make a minor clarifying change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Mr. Amiano, it was brought to my attention that somewhere along the line it was raised that this bill might authorize districts to require all the documentation, and so as we move along, you're going to...
Yeah, we had a last-minute conversation with the legislative analyst, and so we'll clarify.
Okay, great. Is there a motion on Mr. Amiano's bill? New question?
Sorry about that. It says, that you can be established by this documentation, but is not limited to. So is this intended that if they provide any one of these?
Yes, and that's what we're going to clarify as we move forward so that people would understand the range that we're talking about. As long as it says where you live within the district, the name and address, then that would be sufficient. So you don't have to include all of them, but we're going to clarify that.
Okay, so if a district, for example, didn't want to accept a voter registration form,
right, they would have another option.
They can have their own. So they can determine which of these they want to include and which they don't.
Yeah, and we'll clarify. But it'll still be a range.
Right. Okay. I just want to be sure because I could own a house somewhere, pay property taxes, and not live there. And if you had to accept that, then
I think what we're interested in is that because there is not clear guidelines, that there was abuse of this, an impossible rubric. In fact, where one school district, which now supports this bill, asked for passports, and that is against the law.
And I agree with your intent there. I just want to be sure that we still have latitude for school districts to decide, which work best for their district. Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions?
Now the school district that was the abuser now supports the bill, so presumably they've changed their practice.
One would hope so.
All right. I'm looking for other examples of abuse, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know if this bill is necessary. I guess it couldn't hurt. I'm thinking that the only districts that would want to turn down students are basic aid districts, right? Because they're not going to get any additional ADA.
What their rationale is, I can only guess, but
they haven't weighed in here on this bill, so.
Well,
I laid off before. I'll probably do it again, and I don't know what I'll do on the floor, but I'll
all right, we'll try to do the outreach so that there's universal support. Obviously, you're not going to get people to come to a committee meeting, but there have been documented evidences of abuse, keeping students out because of certain backgrounds or because they weren't desired. That I can only guess as to what the rationale is.
Ms. Buchanan.
The only response I can give you there is I fully agree with the intent of what the author wants to do on this, but there are school districts that are facing growth or overcrowding, and if you are diverting students within an attendance area because you don't have room at a school, but you're accepting someone else based on documentation that supposedly they live in the district but they don't, it creates internal problems for your own school districts, and parents become upset. So that's why you want to be sure that those you're accepting are actually ones that live in the attendance area of the school and in the school district. No, I think I think the author. If he's going to clarify that he's going to give school districts latitude, I think the bill will work for them. But when you were asking why a school district would care, I think that's because there's parental pressure to make sure their kids get to go to neighborhood schools where there's overcrowding. They don't want a result of a process that allows you to falsely submit documents saying they live in an area and they don't.
Is there a motion on the bill? Moved by Ms. Carter, seconded by Mr. Ng. The motion is do pass. Would you like to close, Mr. Amiano?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Well, if you respectfully ask for an aye vote, I will have the secretary call the roll and vote.
Please,
aye.
Mommy.
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby? Norby not voting. Amiano?
Aye.
Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Buchanan, aye. Butler? Carter? Carter, aye. Ng, aye. Gurel. Halderman? Halderman, no. Wagner? Wagner, no. Williams? Williams, aye. 6 votes.
6 votes. Your bill is out.
Thank you
and
very
Ms.
much.
Carter, you are next with AB 414 and AB 596. Item 14, we'll start with AB 414. Welcome, Ms. Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Today I'm presenting AB 414, a bill that gives suspended students the opportunity to review and complete class assignments while fulfilling their suspension. And I also want to state that I accept the committee's amendments. Current law already requires that teachers give missed assignments and homework to students with excused absences. AB 414 requires, when requested by parents, guardians, or students, that teachers provide all class assignments and homework missed during the suspension. It will be the teacher's decision whether they will accept the missed work when the student returns to class. AB 414 will only apply to suspended students who are in grades 4 through 8 and have been suspended for 3 days or less. As we know, days missed in school affect students' academic achievement and one of the many factors that leads to students' dropout. According to the California Dropout Research Project, each group of students that drops out costs the state of California $46.4 billion. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Witnesses in support of the item? Witnesses in opposition? Any comments from members?
Move the bill.
Mr. Amiani moves the bill. Is there a second? Mr. Williams seconds the bill. It's due pass as amended to Appropriations Committee. And I'm so glad that you're carrying this bill. I worked on this at one point in time too, so I really do hope very much that you are successful. This is the right thing to do. And with that, if you'd like to close on your bill.
Mr.
Oh. Did I see? Did somebody else want to speak on this item? I didn't see. Oh, Mr. Norby.
Yes. The Vice Chair would like to speak. It's only 6 o'clock, and that's p.m., not a.m. Yeah, I think kids should get homework if they're suspended. I'm not aware that there are districts that deny that. Maybe some just, it falls through the cracks. Normally a teacher, when a kid is suspended, you get a slip and it says this kid's suspended or this kid's at home or whatever, and you attach the homework to it, send it to the office, and the parent picks it up. Question would be, why just 4 through 8? Why not high school, or is there a existing law that applies to high school?
Students on the 4th through 8th grades are the ones who primarily will be suspended, and they need the most help. By the time you get to high school, it's a little different. What we're asking here is that it's voluntary by the teacher, and so 4 through 8 is when they have their first offense, I think, and I think it's really important.
I'm not going to oppose it for that, but seemingly there ought to be maybe a uniform policy. Normally I defer to the school districts, but I think they're doing this anyway, and if it's kind of like the Bradford bill, something they need to do that we need to clarify, then that's fine. If they're going to be at home and going to come back, you definitely want them doing their homework. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Carter, would you like to close?
Yes, I respectfully, again, ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
And the motion is due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. And with that, the Secretary will call the roll.
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby?
Aye.
Norby, aye. Amiano? Aye. Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Butler? Butler, aye. Carter?
Aye.
Carter, aye. Ing? Gorell? Halderman? Halderman, no. Wagner? Wagner, aye. Williams? Williams, aye. 7 votes.
7 votes. That bill is out. And now we'll proceed to AB 596.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Assembly Bill 596 will allow the same due process for CalWORKS recipients of child care for stages 2 and 3 as afforded stage 1. It would require the State Department of Education to collaborate with welfare rights and legal services advocates to develop and adopt regulations and procedural protections. Numerous legal services providers throughout the state have complained about the lack of due process afforded to Stage 2 and 3 child care recipients. This bill will provide uniform and equal due process throughout all 3 stages of CalWORKS. And I have with me today in support Mr. Kevin Aslanian, Executive Director, Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations, who is the sponsor, and Jessica Bartholow, Legislative Advocate, Western Center on Law and Poverty. And I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. If the witnesses will...
Yeah, good evening. My name is Kevin Aslanian. I'm with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations. And the reason we're sponsoring this bill is because I do pro bono work in the community for folks who came here from the former Soviet Union, because I was raised in the former Soviet Union. They speak Russian, Armenian, and I had one client who was on CalWORKS, and she lost her child care because of the provider. We went to a hearing. It was a very bad hearing, and she actually ended up losing her job. So this bill is an effort to make a meaningful hearing process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hi, Madam Chairwoman. Jessica Bartholow with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. Western Center is in support of this bill. Obviously, people who are receiving Stage 2 and 3 child care are doing so because they're complying with welfare to work requirements or workfare requirements, because they're attending school or working. And the child care is there in order to enable them to do that. Western Center on Law and Poverty recently represented a CalWORKS recipient who was exiting CalWORKS because she got a full-time job. $10 an hour. She's a single mom with 2 kids of 2 and 11 and was not receiving child support. When she was given the notice that she would lose her child care, she had a choice of nothing, right? Either losing your job and going back to work, or finding inadequate care for her children. Her parents are elderly and unable to take care of the kids, and she has no other relatives that live nearby. So for many people in this situation who are living at very low incomes, their choices are little. When they lose child care, they need to have the ability to appeal those decisions with an administrative law judge who understands the law. So we respectfully ask for your aye vote. This is a really important bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other witnesses in support of the bill? Witnesses in opposition? Is there a motion on the bill? Moved by Mr. Amiano, seconded by Mr. Ng. Mr. Norby.
He didn't ask the question.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Sorry, I thought you had indicated that you wanted to speak.
I did not.
Very good. So there is a motion and a second, and that's due pass to the Human Services Committee. And with that, I will ask the Secretary to call the roll.
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby?
No.
Norby, no. Amiano? Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Butler? Butler, aye. Carter?
Aye.
Carter, aye. Ng? Ng, aye. Gurel? Halderman? Halderman, no. Wagner? Wagner, no. Williams? Williams, aye.
6 votes, or your bill is out. And now we will take care of the consent calendar, and then I'm going to present my last 2 bills. First, on the consent calendar, there are 2 items. Item 6, AB 143 by Mr. Fuentes. It's due pass as amended to the Judiciary Committee. And item 20, AB 709 by Brownlee, due pass as amended to the Human Services Committee. Is there a motion on the consent calendar? Moved by Mr. Norby, seconded by Mr. Amiano. Will the Secretary call the roll?
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby?
Aye.
Norby, aye. Amiano? Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Butler? Butler, aye. Carter? Carter, aye. Ng? Ng, aye. Gurel, Halderman?
What am I doing first?
Yes. Halderman, aye. Wagner? Wagner, aye. Williams? Williams, aye.
Vote passes. AB 440, Brownlee. Is this 360 or 440? 360, Brownlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members, AB 360 requires charter schools to comply with the same conflict of interest policies as school districts. The bill requires charter schools to comply with the Brown Act or the Bagley-Keene Act, whichever applies, the Public Records Act, the Political Reform Act, and specifies that members of charter school boards may not be financially interested in any decision made by the board, Government Code 1090. This bill will continue the long-standing tradition that charter schools have greater autonomy than traditional public schools, but at the same time provides greater transparency to parents and the public regarding the use of public funds by charter schools for the educational benefit of their students. This bill has nothing to do with the governance of charter schools. It has everything to do with providing similar transparency requirements as school districts. In light of recent calls for greater transparency among city governments, community colleges, CSUs, and the UCs, it is also appropriate to establish transparency measures for public dollars spent at charter schools. Everyone agrees that charter schools are public schools and their governing boards have authority over public funds. Charter school governing boards should be held to at least the same standard as school district boards for conflicts of interest. Charter schools must operate with integrity and transparency in order to assure that the public about their fiduciary responsibility, as well as cast a bright light on those who might violate the fiduciary trust. Only a few, maybe most charter schools are good charter schools. And I accept the proposed committee amendments, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote. I have Dr. Ken Schmidt and CSBA here to testify today.
Great. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Kenneth A. Schmidt. I was the inaugural president of the Board of Trustees for the Great Valley Academy Modesto. My resignation after 8 months of serving as a president of the board was a direct result of the failure of the school administration to follow the Brown Act and the Political Reform Act. Specifically, there was a failure to supply the board meeting agenda in a timely manner in order to make informed decisions regarding school finances, compliance with state and federal laws, and human resources. During my presidency on the board, I frequently requested that the board and administration be provided with agendas at least 48, if not 72 hours before a meeting, that those agendas would be made public, the training in the Brown Act would be provided, and that board agenda minutes would be posted. None of my requests were addressed. There was no public or private disclosure of the meetings. Prior to the school's opening in August of 2008, I was told moments before a school board meeting that the school would not be opened on schedule for the students who had already enrolled unless the board approved a contract with Smart Schools of California, a corporation owned by the founder. Without any opportunity to examine the fiscal plan, I was extremely pressured to approve the document. Since that time, questions have been raised regarding how that document may have served to financially benefit the founder. To the best of my knowledge, large sums of money were and are currently paid to the founder of the company. This money is obtained through California taxpayer dollars for the education of our state's children, not for the creation of a private enterprise. On June 30th, 2008, the other board members and I were informed that we were to sign Form 700. We were not informed of the importance of the document or its relation to the Political Reform Act. Upon signing the documents, we were told that the documents would be filed with the founder of the school and the school's attorneys. Without a reason to doubt his word, we complied. However, this was not done in accordance with the law. It was not until November of 2010 that we learned from a concerned parent that the Form 700 had not been filed by any of the board members. By state law, each of us would be held financially responsible for the failure to file. Not until February 2011 was I contacted by the current board president about this issue, despite the fact that they had been informed January 5th, 2011, in a warning letter from the FPPC. Apparently, California's laws regarding fair political practice do not apply to charter schools and their members. Throughout my term, I inquired as to why the board was made up of individuals selected by the founder. It was and is my belief that school boards should be comprised of duly elected community members and parents. I never received a response from the founder administration. To the best of my knowledge, there has never been an election of school board members. Selection over election allows this charter school to continue their practice unimpeded.
Move the bill.
Moved and seconded as amendment, right?
As
the author?
Yes, I accepted the committee amendments.
All right. Any more discussion from your side that you want to continue at your
Well, I would like my witnesses to continue.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman and members, Brian Rivas on behalf of the California School Boards Association. We're the sponsors, as Ms. Brownlee said, charter schools are public schools funded by the taxpayers to provide an education to any student who's interested. We think we owe it to them to make sure that decisions regarding the expenditure of monies at the school are made without any kind of self-dealing or self-interest involved, and make sure that charter board members are making decisions in a fair and unbiased manner. So primarily for those reasons, we're in support of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Liz Guillen with Public Advocates. We're in strong support of the bill. We think that Dr. Schmidt's story, first of all, he's very courageous for coming here to share it. We know that there are other experiences that are similar to this that don't get the same kind of airplay. And we think that this bill would go a long way in creating greater transparency about the use of public dollars, something that all parents and the public deserve.
Martha Zaragoza-Diaz, representing Californians Together. We support AB 360 basically because the bill would establish clear conflict of interest policies for governing boards of charter schools that mirror existing conflict of interest policies followed by governing boards of school districts in California. Thank you.
Barrett Senator, on behalf of Santa Clara County Superintendent Dr. Charles Weiss, in strong support for the reasons stated. Thank you.
Great. Any opponents? Oh, more support.
Ask them to state their name,
all right.
their position, and who they represent, because we've reached the 5 minutes of testimony.
Opponents, please come forward, take a seat, state your position.
My name is Kelly Polly. I am a charter school teacher, also at Great Valley Academy, and I am in support of AB 360. I believe that schools definitely need to be transparent. When we are speaking of public money, everything should be transparent so that the students are being educated and the founders are not getting wealthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Zapian Plata, and I'm the concerned parent Dr. Schmidt spoke about. And I just want to say one thing. I read in this agenda that the opposition's argument is AB 360 seeks to impose a range of new laws on charter schools without identifying any failures in the current construct. I can identify many dozens of material violations just at the school my children are at for a year and a half. I just want to say one right now, and if anybody wants to know any other ones later, that's fine. But the Form 700, the charter school was chartered in February 12, 2008, and bear with me, I'm a little nervous. Just a mom from Modesto.
Mom from Modesto, you've waited a long time, so go ahead.
Thank you. The school was chartered February 12, 2008. They never filed their conflict of interest code until I asked for a copy of it July 13, 2010. When I asked for a copy of it, I was told at a public meeting that they would get it to me at the next meeting. What I came to find out was that it had never been filed with the Board of Supervisors. They did it after the July meeting. It was filed July 13th, and then it was accepted or signed by the Board of Supervisors August 2nd, 2010. The next meeting for the GVA board was August 3rd, 2010, and that's when they handed me a copy. I then came to find out that they had never filed their Form 700s, so I asked them about it. I was ignored. I filed a complaint with the FPPC. They investigated, sent them a letter, and asked them to submit their forms within 30 days. That was February 4th, 2011. As of about 3 weeks ago, they had only filed maybe 7 of them, and there's probably approximately 18 different positions that are required to file Form 700. And then the scary thing about it is the Form 700 just goes to the Board of Supervisors, and it just sits there. Nothing's done with it. It doesn't go any other place. No one looks at it. No one asks about it. No one checks for conflict of interest. This particular school has this language from AB 360 is written in the charter, Many charter schools have this language written in there. They actually had an MOU that was given March 13th, 2008, when they got chartered. And in the MOU, they were told, or they promised to follow everything that's in AB 360. They have not done it as of today. They have another MOU that says they will follow all of these, including special education services. They've done none of those. This particular school, now I have filed a complaint December 13th, 2010 with...
Take it you're for the bill.
Yes.
Oh, appreciate that. Next, sir, go ahead.
Thank you.
Nancy Van.
Thank you.
Harold Boyd, United Teachers, Los Angeles. We love this transparency.
Nancy Vandell, California State PTA. We're in strong support of the bill. Thank you so much for bringing it forward.
Joshua Golka, California School Employees Association, in support.
Virginia Strom Martin on behalf of Los Angeles Unified School District with 153 charters with whom we have a pretty good relationship. We still support this bill.
Michael Holsizer here on behalf of the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. We're in strong support of the bill.
Andrew Keller here on behalf of San Francisco Unified School District and Alameda County Office of Education, in support.
Jeff Freitas with the California Federation of Teachers, in support.
Seth Bramble for the California Teachers Association, processing a support.
Those in opposed, please come forward. Those in opposition.
Mr. Chair and members, Rand Martin on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association. I'm going to be very brief. The chair is well aware of that we share her interest in transparency and good governance for charter schools. She's also aware that we have particular concerns about elements of the Section 1090 provisions of her bill, but we've also had some very productive and friendly discussions over the last couple of months. We remain optimistic that we're going to actually find common ground on this bill and hopefully have a bill that everybody at this dais can support at some point.
So you're opposed but optimistic, or
opposed but optimistic? It's a new category, Mr. Norby. Opposed but optimistic, yes. Yes.
Okay.
We are working with the author and look forward to continuing to work with her.
Questions, comments from the panel? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Williams.
Concerned, but voting yes.
Go ahead and summarize.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody's patience. It's been a long meeting for everybody that has to wait until the bitter end of this meeting to be here to testify. I appreciate it. I am working closely with the Charter School Association and will continue to do so, and I feel optimistic as well, and with that I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Okay, go ahead.
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby?
No.
Norby, no. Amiano? Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Butler? Butler, aye. Carter? Carter, aye. Ing? Ing, aye. Gurrell? Halderman? Halderman, no. Wagner? Wagner, no. Williams? Williams, aye.
Bill passes. AB 440. Brownlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill establishes both fiscal and academic accountability standards for charter schools that are, in my opinion, long overdue. The fiscal accountability standards proposed by this bill will ensure that charter schools receive thorough audits conducted by the same high-quality auditors that conduct school district audits, and ensure that the Charter Association has a seat at the table when the audit guide is established. Legislative intent is clear that charter schools were established to accomplish improved student learning. This bill establishes academic standards that will ensure charter schools are demonstrating improved student achievement compared to their neighborhood schools. Additionally, this bill creates new academic standards for renewal and ensures that charter schools that have failed to meet academic targets over the past 7 years will be closed. Further, the bill allows charter authorizers to consider during renewal whether a charter school is serving similar student populations compared to their neighborhoods, the district, or the population identified in the charter petition. It also establishes a new renewal timelines for all charter schools so that chartering authorities can more closely monitor the charter schools they oversee. Again, negotiations with Charter School Association continues on this bill, and I'm committed to working with them, and hopefully we can find agreement and common ground. But with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Those in support, go ahead.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz, representing Californians Together. The provisions of AB 440 would ensure successful conditions for high-performing charter schools by specifying how charter authorizers should monitor and hold charter schools accountable, especially with regard to student achievement and with regards to student subgroups. Additionally, AB 440 would ensure that charter schools are consistent with its original legislative intent to increase learning opportunities for all students, with special emphasis on expanded learning experiences for students who are identified as academically low achieving. The bill also focuses on English learners and on special education students, and for those reasons, we wholly support AB 440.
Thank you. Next.
Liz Guillen with Public Advocates, and for all the same reasons that Martha has stated, we support.
Thank you.
Nancy Vandell, California State PTA. PTA supports public charter schools, but we feel like they need to be held to the same accountability standards as regular public schools. We support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Freitas with the California Federation of Teachers in support of this bill.
Joshua Golka with the California School Employees Association in support.
Andrew Keller with Alameda County Office of Education and San Francisco Unified School District, both in support.
Harold Boyd, United Teachers Los Angeles, in support for all the reasons previous.
Seth Bramble on behalf of the California Teachers Association, processing a support.
Any other supporters? Those in opposition, please come forward. State your case.
Mr. Chair and members, Rand Martin on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association. This will also be very brief. The chair is well aware that we share her interest in academic accountability, but we do have concerns about the way it's written in her bill. We do believe, again, that we are going to be able to find common ground on this issue. We have the same objectives in mind. We do want academic accountability. We do want to shut down bad charter schools. It's really a matter of figuring out what is the most effective way of accomplishing that. Again, we continue to meet with the chair on this issue, and we look forward to continuing that dialogue. Thank you.
Bron Shea Jones on behalf of the K-12 charter schools. Not in opposition. We have some concerns. We've talked to the chair's staff. We've agreed to sit down with them on this bill and AB 360. We believe, as Rand said, we can come to some reasonable conclusion.
Comments, questions from our panel? Go ahead.
I respectfully ask for your vote, and again, thank everybody for staying late.
Seconded.
And Mr. Norrie, don't adjourn the meeting because we still
I'm not adjourning. I'm just taking a motion.
I know, but I'm worried that you're going to slam that gavel down as soon as the votes are called and we have some items on call.
I'm sure we do.
Okay. All right. I respectfully, Mr. Chair, ask for your aye vote.
Okay, I was going to take the roll, but if you just want mine, then we'll see. The motion is to pass to Appropriations Committee, and we'll take the roll. Go ahead.
Brownlee?
Aye.
Brownlee, aye. Norby?
No.
Norby, no. Amiano? Aye. Amiano, aye. Buchanan? Butler? Butler, aye. Carter? Carter, aye. Ing? Ing, aye. Gurel? Halderman? No. Halderman, no. Wagner? Wagner, no. Williams? Williams, aye. It's got 6 votes.
Okay, so we have one item or two items on call. AB 21, item 21, AB 746 by Assemblymember Campos, and AB 23, AB 1034 by Assemblymember Gatto. We need Ms. Buchanan, if the sergeant would call Ms. Buchanan. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you, Mr. Gatto. As you should. As you should. Okay, so we can start with the first item because Ms. Buchanan has already voted on this item. Item 21, AB 746 by Ms. Campos. It's due pass. The chair voted aye. Would the secretary call the missing or the absent members?
Amiano? Amiano, aye. Butler? Butler, aye. Williams? Williams, aye. So it's out. It's got 3, 6, 7.
7 votes, and that bill is out. And the last item is item 23, AB 1034 by Mr. Gatto, due pass to appropriations, and the chair voted aye. Due pass as amended to appropriations, and the chair voted aye.
Norby?
Which one's that?
1034. Not voting. Norby not voting. Buchanan? Buchanan, aye. And Wagner? Wagner, no.
How many votes?
It has 6 votes.
6 votes. Mr. Gatto, your bill is out. And with that, looking at staff, are there anything outstanding?